Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. As always, we're running into a two-game slate here. Nate, on Thursday night, your typical, what we're used to in past days of like no games to work with on a Thursday night, even though there's no football. So we'll make the best with what we have, at least with this Warriors and Warriors and Nuggets game in Golden State. We already have those lines up. Milwaukee on a back-to-back against San Antonio. So we'll do the best we can with those, but plenty to look at here for best bets in the Dubs game. And we also have a player props up for you because we're pros, and this is what we do each and every weekday. So subscribe to that page and continue to follow along. Also want you to head to thelines.com and use the odds finder tool that we have up there to make sure you're getting the best juice for all these bets that you're making in the NBA this season. Nate, let's go ahead and get right into your first best bet here from the Dubs and the Nuggets game.
Yeah, I mean, we got all the props up for this one at least, and we do think we know who's going to be playing. Most of the props, I'd say, but at least for the stars. So I'll do a little same game parlay on the conservative side. Steph to get 25, Joker to go 20 and 10. And that gets you close to even money here. I guess you'd be more concerned about Steph getting the 25s. He's had his ups and downs in recent games, but he's coming off a really white-hot performance against a tough Orlando defense. First and foremost, I just want to fade the fact that Denver somehow is going to stop him or that KCP is a Steph stopper. It's the last 3 regular season games, including 2 this season, he's been ice cold against them. And he knows that. And he's just going to come out with motivation because of that. And he's not going to be held down. He averaged 21 points per game on 28% splits in those 3 meetings. That is just way, way off the page outlier for Steph Curry, right? I mean, Steph Curry is a 48-41 kind of split guy, no matter what defense you throw at him, no matter what the matchup is or the situation. And so now, I mean, he's in a situation where the Warriors, it's kind of nut cutting time, right? I mean, it's time to start winning some games, or they're gonna trade Clay, or they're gonna do something drastic, right? It's just like this team is not competitive if Steph doesn't drag them. And when they've been dogs lately, he had 33 against Boston, he had 34 against OKC. 29 against Sac, 22 and 26 against LAC. The other situations when he's dogs are against Denver. And again, I think he can score on this Denver team. Let's just look at the playoffs last year, where he averaged 31 a game on the typical Steph splits, 52, 40% from 3, 38% usage rate, which is way up from these last few regular season meetings. Joker, of course, we like him to get 20 and 10, even though he's had his ups and downs as well, because we don't know when he's going to give that full MVP effort. The point is, he'll play the matchups, and the Warriors right now, they're trotting out a rookie at center. Kevon Looney, you say, is washed. And there's obviously no Draymond walking through that door. In his last 8 against the Warriors with Dre, Joker 20 and 9 in his last 8 without, which happens to be the last 8 period, because for whatever reason, Draymond has not been out there in the regular season. He's averaging 27.5 and 14.5 rebounds. So I have no qualms taking Joker at that conservative line. And I think this is a nice conservative SGP altogether.
It is, and it should be. And Steph should get 25, which would be the only part of the bet that you might be concerned with. I don't think it's going to be quite as much of a blowout with Denver on the road, but I think they're going to basically keep the Dubs at bay anywhere from 6 to 13 points throughout the game is kind of how I see this one fluctuating, with the Nuggets controlling things and still being somewhat, I don't want to call them lackadaisical, but certainly not as elevated in enthusiasm, let's say, as they might have been last year when they were at this point of the season and they were still looking to prove. Obviously, they didn't have a chip. It's just natural to be that way. The interesting thing about this game is going to be whether or not Trace Jackson Davis can last. How long can he stay in there as the center for this team? So I'll just go into my first bet, which is I'm taking Denver to win this game, and I'm going to take them to cover 3 points. Opened at 2.5, and it stayed there for a while, and now it's at 3. And I'm sure that by the time people are watching this, it's going to be at least 3. So I'm not going to give out 2.5, even though that's what I bet it at pretty early today. The 3 points is nothing. It's whatever. Like, I'm not going to use that as much of a measuring stick. As long as I get it under like 4.5 or so, I'm really happy with that bet for the Nuggets. And you might see it continue to rise a bit as people turn their focus from the 12 game slate on Wednesday night towards the Thursday slate. But to the point of this bet, I don't trust the Dubs. I do not trust them. I did trust them in that Magic matchup, although I tried to take the Magic to cover and even the under wasn't there. What I realized afterwards was like, look, if Steph is going to be able to score and you're bad against like dribbling point guards who can score off of the dribble, right, and pull up off the dribble, more importantly, you're going to be able to at least score against Orlando. That's the only place that they're really vulnerable when you look at their team, because once you get into the foul line area, they're either going to foul you or they're going to probably steal it from you. But with Steph, like in that situation, it was a better matchup than this one for sure. I'm not saying he can't do his thing. I'm going to say that if he does his thing, it's going to be more at the expense of the offense than the last time they played. And if you look at the last now it's 12 games without Draymond, which since he's been out, essentially is what I'm saying. Steph doing too much, bad, right? It's the field goal attempts. Once he gets about to like 19, 20, now we're talking a bit of trouble. He still only had 9 3-point attempts in that last game, which for Steph Curry, there's been times where he's been up around 14, 15 threes over the course of like a 5, 6, 7 game period. So the fact that he didn't force it in that Magic game worked for them. I think he's going to have to, right? Like, I don't think the assists are going to be there for him the way they were against that Magic team. So basically he's going to have the ball pulled out of his hands much sooner, with a much better defensive backcourt at this point than what the Magic were able to put out there. Even though Jalen Suggs played, it was still a lot of Cole Anthony, and you missed Markelle Fultz to be the final sort of piece of that really tall, long, rangy defense. So the way that this team is going to play against the Nuggets is probably a bit more indicative of how they played as of late. They're playing so many young guys. When you just saw them play 3 really good teams with veterans like the Mavericks, the Heat, and this Nuggets team that they played 4 games ago, they were abysmal wherever they played, at home, on the road. They're just playing too many young guys to deal with a team like that that's going to be able to handle them. They had 122 defensive rating in that time, -6 net. They were basically lost those games by an average of 9 points, and they had everybody. But like, you just see Steph and CP3 more than any 2 other guys like really trying to pull this team, because Clay literally cannot shoot if it's not catch and shoot. Like, dude is not does not have that capability anymore to even sidestep somebody and be quick enough to get that shot off. It's just a lot of his stuff is catch and shoot, and most of it is unguarded, or at least with nobody within 0 to like 6 feet of him. So I'm not feeling good about the Dubs, and the Nuggets on the road be damned. I still think they give a shit about beating a team like the Warriors.
Yeah, no, I'm with the Nuggets to cover this, and I would add it to that SGP just fine, and include in the game theory of Steph's going to have to score 25 for the Warriors to be close in this game, right? And for them to hang with the Nuggets down the stretch and force Joker to keep coming down with rebounds. I mean, the Nuggets, they got AG back after a pretty bad loss at the Thunder, right? So kind of a wake-up call for them at this point as we turn the calendar, as they start to try to get in that championship form. We keep wondering, when are they doing this? When are they going to really start caring about how they look? It's starting to happen. I mean, with Jamal Murray at least bringing the intensity, Joker still, like I said, takes what the defense gives him. But yeah, I think we do see that kind of championship effort from the Nuggets to put the Warriors to bed once again. So let's look at this other game here. Bucks are at San Antonio. Totals at 250 is where we open, and I was interested in the under, and I looked into it a lot, and I was gonna, argue for it on the basis that Giannis is going to take tomorrow night off. But then they lose to the Pacers, and I don't think he's going to be convinced to sit. Like, I think he's going to come back out and take his frustration out on the Spurs defense, which is just horrendous. And then I look at the Bucks defense, and they're actually giving up the most paint points in the league in their last 10 games, and the most paint points on the road in a longer strain. And that's where the Spurs are scoring all their points. It's either assisted field goals, and it's points in the paint. And, it takes like a good defensive coach and structure for the Spurs to not get some points back when they're giving up a ton. That's why they've only gone under 3 times at home all season, and 2 of them were in consecutive games against Ty Lue and the Clippers. And I just do not believe Adrian Griffin has the same kind of X's and O's mind to limit the Spurs to battle wits with Pop, even if he's going to throw terrible non-point guards out at point guard and do whatever the hell they're doing out there. I think the Spurs are going to score enough points to get around 120. And then Milwaukee's going to be in the 130s, and this is gonna go over if you can get it at this reasonable number. I do wonder, maybe Brook Lopez sits. We know Chris Middleton will be out on the back-to-back, right? So that's the one thing we know, but I think that means more Beauchamp and more Connaughton and more pace. And the Spurs will pull you out on pace, right? 102.5 pace here in this last 9. The Bucks on their last back-to-back was at 97 pace at home against Houston. It still almost got to 250, and Houston is a very good defense. And I will say their one game without Giannis this season got to 240 at a 95 pace when Toronto shot 9 for 33 from 3. So not a good offensive performance, but still got a ton of points because Giannis wasn't in there to protect the paint. If Brook Lopez sits, nobody's, the paint is even more open. And Dame has also had a ton of success against the Spurs. So I'll stick with the over, and you guys are going to have to parse it out based on this injury report tomorrow.
Totally. Sorry about you. Welcome to the landmines that are the NBA injury report. I got nothing for you, man. Like Pop it's not much to work with, right? With what he's doing and how they're trying to configure lineups. I guess I don't know what he's doing because how long is he going to be there? So who's he doing this for? It's all very confusing to me. But I'll just go to my fourth bet and slide step right past it because I don't care. That I just don't have enough for it right now. But the last bet I'll take here is still a lean because we don't have these props up for Dario Saric while we're recording on Wednesday night here. But Saric is a guy that I like to play in this game. And what's really interesting, what I started to say as I was talking about the -3 for Denver that I like TJD heretofore, like Trace Jackson Davis, the rookie. I'm not saying that every time. It's TJD now. He didn't start last game, and so it's tough to see like how these rotations are going to work. Looney did start, and you expected what happened is what I expected, which is Looney gets close to 25. I think he got that 25, and Dario Saric also gets minutes versus Jokic because they both need to be in there. You need a true center in there, and now they're starting TJD at quote unquote true center. This is about, you can't. It's just barbecue chicken time if you leave him in there against Jokic, right? So that's why I'm like, look, no matter what you want to do with TJD in this one as a starter or not starter, you got to get Saric in there very quickly. And it's got to be Saric for a couple reasons. Looney, as of late, is damn near unplayable. He's turned into a very nice to have backup center when you really do. It's like break in terms of emergency, right? Break glass in terms of emergency. That's what he is. And trust me, without Draymond in there and how thin they are in the front court, they're going to break the glass at times. But more importantly, clearly Saric worked last time, and clearly Saric worked against Denver last time with Chris Paul specifically. Even when Steph's on the floor, Chris Paul and Dario Saric in a two-man lineup right now have a positive 8.2 net rating. They just only get roughly like 7 minutes a game with each other, right? Which is still a good amount of time, but it's because CP3's out there with the backups a lot more when you have Draymond in. Well, now that TJD's in there, CP3's in the starting role. He's no longer in coming off the bench at all. He's still playing some backup minutes, but I expect Saric to come meet him on the starting lineup versus CP3 to go meet Saric in the backup lineup in the second unit, because Kerr knows that, and they were awesome together on Phoenix, etc. Right, so that's why they've worked so well together this year. That's why he's going to get on the floor. I would imagine that I'm hoping, and being overly optimistic, 12.5 PRA would be awesome for Saric. It might be that we see it at closer to 14.5 because maybe there's some info like what I'm saying baked into a number from some sharp books. But I would not be surprised at all if there's an opening line for Saric that comes out at around 12.5, maybe and 13.5. I would still play the over on that for him. Just to finish the point, like you look at his game log and who he plays against. It's definitely teams that have true centers and specifically offensive true centers, because Goga Batadze is a true center and he got a decent amount of minutes against the Magic. And yet Saric only saw 14 minutes. But then you talk about the Dallas game before that. Derek Lively, not a true center by any means, right? Dwight Powell, certainly not a true center by any means. So you're going to have a guy like TJD or Kuminga in there even at the 5 at times. But now we move on to Miami. He played 20 minutes. Denver, he played 20 minutes. Even Portland, when they had Ayton, 19 minutes, 20 versus Gafford. I believe KP missed that game, right, against the Warriors. So there was no real center in that point. You get my drift, right? Once he played Zubac and Nick Claxton, all of those games are games he went over in the last 11. And all of them, he played at least like 19 minutes, if not 21 minutes. So that's the game theory here. Once again, is like the minutes, follow the minutes for this dude, and then you'll get the rebounds because he's the true center standing down there. Even if it's not like he's able to box out Jokic, he's still gotten over this number in those games where he gets the minutes. So I'll follow him back there this time.
Yeah, I mean, I asked you what's the best way to like fade TJD, basically. Because I don't expect him to hold his own against Jokic, and this is probably it, right? It's just like, all right, the rookie's getting a quick hook here because Jokic is making him look silly, and we're gonna have to throw another big body out there, and who's it gonna be? Dario Saric. And I also like Kuminga. I'm gonna put him in the player props for sure because there's size all over the place with Denver. Obviously, biggest front line in the league. Now they have Aaron Gordon back. So yeah, these big guys should be out there. And I don't trust the rookie to follow up what he did against Goga Bitadze, against the most skilled center in the league.
Yeah, right. Not Goga Bitadze. Nikola Jokic is the most skilled one. Yeah, right. We're in agreement there. So, all right. That is all the time we have for you in Best Bets. We also got Play a Props up, though. So subscribe to that page and continue to follow along each and every weekday this season. Until we see you next, happy betting.